other things?
Well, the reason I'm here today is that I believe there was talk of it going to the planning board, like that land for redevelopment.
Well, item number 2016-43, requesting the planning board to conduct a feasibility study to determine if the area of Ernston Road identified by Sarah meets the criteria as an area in need of redevelopment.
So could we have our meeting before anything is done with that? Anything is forwarded to a planning?
Jim, what's the cost of the study?
Well, that's right. That could be rather costly to do that. And I think if the plan is affirmed by Judge Wolfson, we've already targeted this area as possibly an area that's going to have affordable housing. So that's going to preempt any concerns that Sarah might have with respect to that.
Is what do the people that live in your neighborhood want? You know, if they're adamantly opposed to it, I can't imagine why we would insist and what justification we would have for developing borough property.
And we've now included this particular piece of property in this master plan and as part of our settlement. I think we need to defer until that all comes down the road, which we'll know in a week or so.
Kevin, other than the woods and the natural fauna and flora in your backyard, what else? What would you like to replace then?
I would like it to stay the way it is.
Steve, you're on your planning and zoning. Can you table this?
This needs to go in front of the council. Tonight it's on our agenda. It has to go through the planning board. It's already gone through Sarah. And then, of course, the public hearings and the discourse that Mr. Cornell brought up. So, in my personal recommendation, as someone that does community planning, I think you have a stronger argument for your case by letting it go through the process, by being able to appear in front of the planning board, or as the mayor said, maybe reappear in front of Sarah.
I would disagree with that, Councilman.
Feasibility study gets us to a point where we can make a decision. That's what this community planning process is based on. If you don't want to subscribe to that, and you prefer to go with what the mayor's saying, that's fine. I'm trying to give you the most option to have a presentation in front of the right people in the right process.
So the question is, does anyone want to make a motion to table this on the consent agenda? Not that we're voting on it, we're only discussing it. We'd have to wait till we get to... No, we could do it here.
Would it be better to do it during the consent agenda, Mayor, since there'd be...
All right, we've done it out of sequence before. Is there a motion to table 2016-43?
Can I interrupt you for 1 second? Did you want to hear from any of the other neighbors?
Well, certainly. Well, we have a motion made and seconded.
Okay.
Your second.
Is there a second?
I wasn't clear on the motion, Mayor. And there was
Motion to table 2016-43, motion made by Councilman Rittenhouse, seconded by Councilman Lembo. We have a roll call?
Why, as a board, do we have to do this if we do not feel that the property meets the criteria or should be developed?
Because there was some animosity and because there was some issues and the residents came and complained, I thought, well, why are we going to say that just because the housing authority says they want this and it doesn't mean that it needs, or doesn't, the financial aspect of doing it, if the council's not going to give us support to do it,
Well, you know that the planning board's going to be the bad guys. You understand that?
doesn't want it. And we can take a political stance. This is the beginning of political season. There's a tremendous amount of misinformation going on, and I'm not going to get into it tonight, but I'm just telling you, there is just tremendous misinformation, and I'm sorry you're being so misled. Vicki, for goodness sakes, I let you speak for 40 minutes. Let me speak, would you
But I would
please?
like to know the misinformation.
Let me speak, Vicki.
Say what the misinformation
All right?
is. You're making
So
a
that
statement.
being said, whether we vote down your neighborhood, your cousin's neighborhood, your uncle's neighborhood, we still have 780 units. As far as the housing authority, I was a housing commissioner for 5 years, all right? There was no plan. There was a desire to do a housing unit, but there were no blueprints, there was no funding, there was no plan. To go before the planning board, you have to have a plan. That's just the way it works. There was no plan. There were no blueprints. There was no nothing. There was merely a desire to do something on the housing authority. Noble effort, but you got to have a plan and you got to have the finance to back it up. You have to have a couple of things. You come home one day and your spouse wants a house. You got a house, she wants a bigger house, a smaller house, whatever it is. You have to have a plan, you have to have the money, you have to have the land. You can't just say I want a house. There has to be more to it. So, I personally think we were represented excellently by Larry Sachs and John Leon Cavella. I will always believe that we had a very diligent and continue to have a very diligent planning board.